Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel continues to prepare for defensive and offensive contingencies versus Iran and its proxies. Defense Minister Gallant voices hope that Iran won't miscalculate Israel's resolve. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris urges Israel to avoid civilian casualties in the war on Hamas in Gaza. Israel continues to prepare additional contingencies for a prospective multi-sector war with the Islamic Republic of Iran and its proxies, while the United States is expediting the deployment of additional assets into the Middle East. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant held a phone conversation with U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin overnight, during the course of which they discussed both operational and strategic coordination in light of recent developments. Per an Israeli Defense Ministry statement, Minister Gallant detailed IDF readiness and capabilities in the face of threats posed by Iran and its regional proxies, and discussed interoperability with the wide range of U.S. military capabilities deployed to the region. Prior to his conversation with Secretary Austin, Defense Minister Gallant visited the IDF's main induction base, Tel HaShomer, where he was initially briefed by senior IDF officials. He then held a discussion with soldiers being drafted to the Nachal and Kfir brigades, during the course of which he addressed the seemingly challenging times during which the fresh recruits are being drafted into the IDF.
אתם מגיעים עכשיו בתקופה שהיא תקופה מאוד מאתגרת. אתם מתגייסים בתקופה מאוד משמעותית. זה נכון על המלחמה כולה. בימים האלה, ממש בימים האלה, האויבים שלנו מאיימים לפגוע בנו בדרכים שהם לא פגעו בנו קודם. אתה שומע את המסרים האלה מכיוון איראן, אתה שומע את המסרים האלה מכיוון חיזבאללה. אני אומר להם, ואתם צריכים לדעת את זה, שמי שיפגע בנו באופן שהוא לא פעל בו בעבר, צפוי גם לפגיעה שלנו באופן שבו אנחנו לא פעלנו בעבר, ולצה"ל יש יכולת חזקה מאוד ומשמעותית מאוד.
Jerusalem's top defense official went on to stress his hope that the Islamic Republic of Iran will not miscalculate Israel's determination to confront any threat by overwhelming force.
אני מקווה שהם יעשו את החשבון בצורה טובה, ולא יגיעו למצב שהם גורמים לנו לעשות דברים שיביאו לפגיעה משמעותית ויעלו את הסיכוי להתפרצות של מלחמה בחזיתות נוספות. זה דברים שאנחנו לא רוצים אותם, אבל אנחנו צריכים להעריך אליהם, והם עלולים לקרות. אני מקווה שהפעולה של צה"ל תביא להשגת המטרות ולהרגעה, וזה דבר לא ודאי. שום דבר לא ודאי, ולכן צריך להיערך כאילו דברים מגיעים לקראת מציאות יותר מורכבת. זה לא הרצון שלנו, אבל צריך להיות מוכנים לזה.
The leaders of Britain, France, and Germany have released a joint statement urging Iran and its allies to refrain from attacks that would further escalate regional tensions and jeopardize the opportunity to agree on a ceasefire and the release of hostages. The statement further reads that they, in reference to Iran and its proxies, will bear full responsibility for actions that jeopardize this opportunity for peace and stability, while insisting that no country or nation stands to gain from a further escalation in the Middle East. The statement by the so-called E3 comes amid wide-scale military exercises by the RGC Aerospace Command and Navy, during the course of which the commanders of the RGC, as well as the RGC Navy, seized the opportunity to boast over new lethal weaponry obtained by the Iranians, which they hope would break the power of balance in their favor.
امروز دقت در سلاح‌ها در نیروی دریایی، سرعت عمل سامانه‌ها و شناورها، هوشمندی، تحرک و چالاکی جزء مسلم توان دریایی ما محسوب میشه.
مقابله با جنگ الکترونیک ما سامانه‌هایی رو در همین الحاق آوردیم که انشالله عملاً به امروز با دست در واقع فرمانده محترم و حضور ایشون به مجموعه واگذار خواهد شد.
With Western concerns over prospects of Iran forcing Israel to utilize the full scale of its power against the Islamic Republic, which may draw the region into a multi-sector conflagration and may even, potentially, set dangerous precedent vis-à-vis other global hotspots, the United States has instructed its USS Theodore Roosevelt aircraft carrier strike group to expedite its transit into the region, while President Joe Biden reiterated his warning to the Ayatollah regime in Tehran.
What's your message to Iran? Mr. President, what's your message to Iran? Any thoughts on former President Trump?
It is important to highlight that the United States has deployed significant forces throughout the Middle East under the U.S. military's Central Command. Among others, its deployment of F-22 Raptor aircraft, which is considered to be the most advanced sixth-generation aircraft globally, came as a surprise since it is predominantly considered to be an offensive rather than a defensive tool. Asked about this deployment, Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh emphasized that it essentially serves as a deterrent to Iran's malign intentions.
Actually, they can be a very invaluable defensive platform. They add a maneuverability, additional systems that allow the commander to have more versatile options. And I think it sends a very clear signal to the region that we want to see tensions de-escalate. And it sends a really, I think, powerful message of deterrence.
Meanwhile, on Israel's northern front, IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi toured the IDF Northern Command, during the course of which he received an elaborate situational assessment from the IDF Intelligence Directorate and Northern Command Commander Major General Ori Goldin. Subsequently, in light of a deadly terror attack in the West Bank district of the Jordan Valley, where a terror cell committed a double shooting attack on Route 19 near Mechola Junction, murdered one Israeli civilian and moderately wounded another.
המשימה שלנו זה לתפוס את המחבלים האלה, להגיע אליהם לפני הפיגועים. לא הצלחנו כאן. השעון שסופר לתפוס את החוליה שביצעה את הפיגוע הזה, סופר אחורה. אנחנו נגיע אליהם, נמשיך להילחם בטרור, עם הצער הגדול על כל קורבן מהטרור הזה, רק נתחזק בלחימה בטרור.
Turning to the Gaza Strip, where the IDF has come under significant international criticism after it struck a school, irrespective of the fact that Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad operatives utilized the compound as a staging ground for terror operations.
After we received clear intelligence of the threat posed by these terrorists, and in accordance with international humanitarian law, we took numerous steps to mitigate the risk to civilians, including using aerial surveillance prior to the strike and selecting very precise munitions to avoid civilian casualties. The IDF conducted a precision strike against the terrorist in one specific building of the compound, an area that, according to our intelligence, no women and children were present. You can see in a video published by us today that the compound is still intact and that there is no significant cratering or damage to the main structure of the compound.
Admiral Hagari went on to voice outrage over the fact that Western officials adopted once again Hamas' deceitful narratives.
This pattern of systematic abuse of schools for military activities by Hamas and Islamic Jihad endangers both Gazans and Israeli civilians. It must be condemned by the international community. Following the strike, the Hamas-run Government Information Office in Gaza published an unverified casualty count, which was then shared around the world. These figures do not distinguish between combatants and non-combatants, and they do not match the information held by the IDF.
Meanwhile, in the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris was asked about the Israeli attack in Gaza, to which she said the following.
You know, yet again, there are far too many civilians who have been killed. I mean, Israel has a right to go after the terrorists that are Hamas. But as I have said many, many times, they also have, I believe, an important responsibility to avoid civilian casualty. Well, look, first and foremost, and the President and I have been working around this around the clock, we need to get the hostages out. We need a hostage deal, and we need a ceasefire. And I can't stress that strongly enough. It needs to get done. The deal needs to get done, and it needs to get done now.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. Last but not least, I'd like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you a Shavua Mevurach, and God willing, we'll see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.
Alpha.